Yes, so hello students, how are you all? I hope you all are fine. Ever wondered how a cricketer hits a six or a footballer makes a free kick? Behind this lies a fascinating concept of projectile motion which I am going to cover it now. I am Nitesh Sir, I am presenting before you the concept of projectile motion, so stay tuned with me and let us start the topic. Here we are going to start with the projectile motion, and first of all I would like to let you know about what is the actual pattern of projectile motion. In fact, whenever any of the person will be just projecting the object with some velocity like this, so it will just be projected with some angle theta. So that way what is happening, that intentionally or unintentionally this person is making some projectile motion. I hope you have understood my point. So depending upon this, few of the concepts are like that which we are going to use in physics, so that we can be moving ahead with some numerical parts. Let us move ahead. Let us see which of the parts we are going to cover in this particular chapter. Here it is, introduction of 2D motion. We have been covered till now the 1D motion. In 1D motion, what we have covered till now? Uniform motion, uniformly accelerated motion, non-uniformly accelerated motion, and many more. Similarly, we have been going with motion under gravity, and all those concepts we are going to implement it here in the projectile motion. So we will be definitely understanding the assumptions which we are going to make in projectile motion. Depending upon that, many of the terms and terminologies which are going to be used in this chapter, that also we are going to cover it here. Is this clear? I hope you all are getting my point. And depending upon all these conditions, once we are going to attempt the numerical, it will be just go in a click. So stay tuned with me till the last of this class. Here, first of all, we are going to get the introduction of motion in 2D. Suppose if I am talking about the position of either of the object, and we are just going to discuss about this position with reference to any coordinate system. So this will be considered as the origin. I hope you are understanding this. So if this will be considered as the origin, and this is the point where that person is exactly situating, means that person is exactly standing, or whatever the condition which has been given in the question. So this person is standing here, right? And if this person is standing here and we are going to take the measurement of the position of that particular object with reference to the origin, so definitely I am going to write one x origin and one y origin. I hope you all are getting my point. So x means what? It is on the exactly x-axis, so definitely it is the magnitude part. So x I cap plus y j cap, we can write it down like this, the position vector. So whenever the position vector has been given, if we are going to be asked to find out the velocity vector, so definitely I hope you all have complete idea that how to find out the velocity vector. It is so simple, we are just going to differentiate this particular position vector with respect to time. Sorry. So once we are going to differentiate it with respect to time, we are going to get the velocity vector this way. It will be Vx I cap plus Vy j cap. And once again, see, when we are going to differentiate the position vector, we are going to get the velocity vector. When we are going to differentiate the velocity vector, we are going to get acceleration vector. So that way we are going to just find out the velocity vector, position vector, and acceleration vector. I hope these points are very much clear to you guys. So we have just to differentiate the position vector to find the velocity vector. We have to differentiate velocity vector to find out the acceleration vector. Next is what? See guys, we have to find out the condition of equation of motion. When this equation of motion come into existence, when we are talking about equation of motion, so equation of motion means what? Acceleration must be constant. Acceleration must be constant, and one more thing is what? Acceleration must be present first of all. Acceleration must be present, acceleration must be constant. When the acceleration will be constant, so in that condition we are going to apply the equation of motion. What we are those equation of motion? See, all these concepts we have been gone through in the last chapter, so I am just going to detailing it in a very brief way. First, it is V is equals to U plus AT. Second one is S is equals to UT plus half AT square. And third one is V square is equals to U square plus 2S. I hope you all are getting my point. So suppose if I am just writing it down here, so don't you think that once the object will be attaining the motion in both the axes, means in x-axis and y-axis simultaneously, so in that condition we must go with the equation, this equation of motion for both the axes. So definitely we are talking about x-axis as well as y-axis. I hope this point is very much clear to you. So when this is the x-axis, we are going to write it like this way: Vx is equal to ux plus ax into t. Similarly, whatever the equation I have written, just suffix of x will be written here, and similarly that way y-axis means this will be written in the form of y-axis. Now the matter of fact is what? That what is ux, what is ax, what is x, what is vx, and all this. So that must be very much known to you. Why? Because just see here, if I am just going to make some illustration this way, here this is y-axis and this one is the x-axis. So if I am asking to you, just tell me if the person is moving, in this way. Just see here. If the person is moving this way, so what will be happening? The condition is like it will not be moving just in a straight line. Why? Because one acceleration is there. That acceleration is nothing but acceleration due to gravity. If I am talking about projectile motion, so even though both the condition is equally true, but if I am talking about projectile motion, there we need to just understand which acceleration is going to play the role, and depending upon that we are understanding that this particular motion is going to be done this way. So it is attaining height as well as length. So if I am talking about length, so length will be definitely Sx, means displacement in x direction. So we are just going to use this one. X is equals to uxt plus half axt square. If acceleration is present, then. If it is not, we have not to apply this equation. And if I am talking about y direction, so definitely we are going to write down y as uit plus half ayt square. So this way we are going to apply the logic so that we could be understanding which of the equation is applicable in this kind of conditions. I hope you are understanding my point. Depending upon this, I am just going to the next slide. See guys, what they are asking us. Here the question is demanding that particle starts from origin and moves with constant velocity. See, the velocity is constant. If velocity is constant, means acceleration is equals to 0. So velocity, this one find its position after 2 seconds. So can you please let me know that if the acceleration, see guys, here they are saying that moves with constant velocity. So constant velocity means definitely one thing must strike your mind, that acceleration is going to be 0. So if acceleration is going to be 0, so definitely there is only one condition which is going to be applied here. See. So that condition which is going to be applied here is what? So definitely we can say that velocity is equals to displacement by time, and the time has been given 2 seconds. So that way you are just going to write down the value of velocity here. So velocity is nothing but 2i cap plus 3j cap, and definitely displacement vector we need to find out, and time is given to be 2 seconds. So that way can't you just say that displacement is going to be 2i cap plus 3j cap into 2, right? Sorry. So it will be definitely 4i cap plus 6j cap, and if they will be asking to you to find out the magnitude or moduli of this particular equation, then you can just definitely find out the magnitude part, and you are very much well capable of finding the magnitude part by the help of vector. So you are just going to apply root under a square plus b square and blah blah whatever you have been taught with. So here you are understanding the point. They are saying that what will be the x component of y component. So what is x component? It is 4 and y component it is 6. So this way it is going to be the right answer. I hope you have understood my point. Depending upon this, let us move ahead with the next chapter, next question, so that we could be getting more and more idea about it. Here they are asking acceleration is equals to I cap and u is equals to 2j cap. Determine its velocity after 2 seconds. Determine its velocity after 2 seconds. Let me know one thing. I would like to ask you that don't you think that few of the cases I would like to illustrate it here. Case 1, if I am going to ask you that if the velocity is in the forward direction and acceleration is also in the forward direction, what do you think? What will happen? If the velocity is in the forward direction and acceleration is also in the forward direction, means both are in the same direction and theta is equals to 0 in between them. So what do you think that what will happen? So as I think so that the velocity, I mean the speed is going to be increased. So definitely I can write down here the speed will be increased. The speed will be increased, my friend, and that way if I am talking about case 2. So what is case 2? If I am telling that the velocity is in forward direction and acceleration is in the backward direction, so what will happen? Here the theta is nothing but it is 180 degrees. So what do you think? What will happen? What will happen? So don't you think that the speed will be decreased? Definitely, sir. Here the speed will be decreased. Yes. And one more case is what? That if suppose that the velocity is in case 3, if I am talking about, so case 3, if I am telling that the velocity is in forward direction and acceleration is in this way, this is acceleration, this is velocity, and both are making 90 degree with each other. So in that condition there will be no effect on the magnitude. There will be no effect on the magnitude. Write down. There will be no effect on magnitude of the velocity. So what will happen? So in that condition the direction will be keep changing this way. So it will definitely be going in the parabolic path. So it attains parabolic path. What does it mean? It means that it will help in changing the direction. It will help in changing the direction. What will help? Acceleration will help the velocity to change the direction. Acceleration will help velocity to change direction. This is what I mean to say. So that one is case 3, this one is case 1, and this one is case 2. So these all points you need to just keep in mind, and depending upon that, let us discuss on this particular condition. They are asking you that acceleration is equals to I cap and u vector has been given as 2j cap. So can't you just let me know that if u vector has been given this way, that it is 2j cap. So definitely you can say that it is 0 I cap plus 0 I cap. Why, sir? Because the acceleration has been given in I cap, right? So if it has been given with the I cap, so definitely we must know that what was the initial state of the I cap. So we must write down that what was the condition in the I cap, and definitely in that way, if I am writing about the acceleration vector, so acceleration vector will be written as I cap plus 0j cap. So what does it mean? Are you getting my point? What I mean to say? What I am telling you, that you will be very clearly visualizing the thing that in y direction, the acceleration is 0, my dear friend. The acceleration is 0 means the velocity is uniform. The velocity is uniform. And same way, if I am talking about x direction, so what is the condition? In x direction, initial velocity is nothing but 0. and in x direction uniformly accelerated motion is there because acceleration is present. I hope you all are getting my point. Depending upon that, you need to find out the position of particle at t is equals to 2 seconds and velocity as well. So you know v is equals to u plus at. Acceleration is present in x direction, so definitely this equation is valid for x direction. I am just going to apply it here. So Vx will be written as ux. Ux is what? It is 0. So definitely we can say it is 0 and Ax is what? 1. 1 into 2. So 1 into 2, it means what? 2 I cap. I hope you all are getting my point. And definitely that way if I am talking about Vy. So what is going to be Vy? As because in y direction it is uniform velocity, acceleration is 0. So definitely whatever the velocity will be initially, that same velocity will be there after 2 seconds, 3 seconds, 4 seconds, that way. So Vy is going to be 2 j cap. So V vector can be written as 2 I cap plus 2 j cap. I hope you all are getting my point, and this way we are going to attain the condition of position as well. In that case, you are going to write down ut plus half at square where the acceleration is present. If acceleration is present, and if we need to find out the displacement where acceleration is absent, where a is equals to 0. So in that case, you are just going to apply it this way. Velocity into time. So this way, you are going to apply this equation when acceleration is 0. And when the acceleration will be present, you are going to apply this equation. So this way you are going to attempt this question to find out the position as well. And I am just leaving this particular part for you to attempt, and you have to just attempt this question, and this is going to be your homework. Let us move ahead with the next part. See here, they are asking to you that x is equals to 60 and y is equals to 3t square. So initial velocity of the particle and its angle from x-axis. So definitely you must understand one thing. If I am talking to you about this condition, so x is equals to 60 and y is equals to 3t square. They are asking you initial velocity. Initial velocity means the condition when t is equals to 0, right? So when t is equals to 0, you just differentiate it first of all. This becomes Vx. Vx will be what? D of 60 upon dt. So it will give you what? 6 meter per second. And similarly, if I am talking about Vy, so it will become what? D 3t squared upon dt. So it will definitely give you what? 60. And if I am going to just put down the value of t to be 0. If I am putting t is equals to 0, so it becomes what? 0. So in y direction there is no initial velocity, and in x direction there will be the initial velocity, which is 6. So what we are going to write down? We are going to say that u vector is nothing but 6 I cap. That's it. And in y direction it is 0. So initial velocity of the particle and its angle from x-axis. So suppose if I am talking to you about x-axis. So what is x-axis? So if I am talking to you about the x-axis condition, so definitely if I am telling that u vector is on the x-axis, so definitely whatever the angle it is making with the x-axis, it is definitely 0 degree. So theta is going to be considered as 0 degree. Now if they are asking to you to find out the acceleration as similar to what we have done in the last question, similarly we are going to attempt it here. We need to find out the acceleration from Vx and Vy, and we are just going to find out the moduli of it. So can't you do it? I hope you can. So that way we are just going to find out all these conditions, and that part is again going to be the homework. Guys, you need to do it. Let us move ahead. Here, this question I am going to consider from the Irodov, and this single question will help you to understand whole the 2D part, so that we could be moving ahead with the projectile motion. So let us understand this point. Here they are asking you that a radius vector of a point A related to the origin varies with time t this way. R is equals to AT I cap minus BT square J cap. R vector is equals to AT I cap minus BT square J cap. And then they are saying that A and B are positive constant and I and J are the unit vectors of the x and y axis. Fine. The equation of point's trajectory. See guys, they have already mentioned you with the hint. Here they have been given you with the hint. What is the hint? That y must be the function of x, and whenever y is going to be the function of x, so that particular equation will be said as the equation of trajectory. So why can't we go with that particular concept and let us start the point? So you will be asking that how sir, how we are going to attempt it. So I am just going to tell you one thing. That thing is what? Wherever the t part will be there, you just replace it. You just replace it with either x or y and just put it in the another equation. You need to write down two of the equation. You have to just replace one of the equation with the another one, and you have to keep in mind that t must be replaced with either x or y. That is what you have to apply it here. So you just see. Once I am going to do, you will understand what I am telling you. See, first part. A equation, A part. So they are asking you the equation of the point's trajectory. So see guys, here, what is x? X is given as AT. What is y? Y is given as minus BT square. Right? Right? So if I am telling you that you just let me know what will be the value of t. T is what? So it will be written as x upon a. Yes sir. So that value of t you are just going to replace it here in that position of t in the another equation. So if you are going to replace it here, what will happen? Y will be equal to minus b into x squared upon a squared. So that way it can be written as minus bx squared upon a squared. Right? So this becomes the equation of trajectory. This will be called as equation of trajectory. Equation of trajectory. This becomes equation of trajectory. So I hope you all have understood my point. What I mean to say, equation of trajectory are those equations where y will be written in the form of function of x. This is the part which you must keep in mind, because this is part which we are going to apply here in the projectile motion as well. The time dependence of the velocity and acceleration. See guys, if the position vector is given, can't you find out the value of velocity and acceleration, and as well as the moduli of these quantities? So you have to find out the moduli of these quantities. So how we are going to find it out? Let us see. I am telling it is given with r vector is equals to AT I cap minus BT squared J cap. So if I am telling you that you just find out the value of velocity as well as acceleration, and that too with the time dependence condition. So what we are going to do? We are just going to differentiate it guys. We are just going to differentiate it this way. dr upon dt will be written as AI cap minus 2bj cap. 2btj cap, right? And so this becomes what? Velocity vector. If I am talking to you about acceleration vector, so it is nothing but dv vector upon dt. So it will be what? It will be written as minus 2bj cap. So if I am talking to you about the condition of velocity vector and we have to find out the moduli of v vector, so what we are going to do? Root under a square plus b square simply. So you just do it this way. Here it is a square plus this one is 2bt, so it becomes 4b square t square. So this becomes the moduli of velocity. Similarly, if I am talking to you about acceleration, you can just tell me that what is the moduli. It will be definitely 2b, right? So that way you can understand the concept. So if I am telling you that you have to find out the velocity vector from position vector, you can find it out by the help of differentiation. From velocity to acceleration, again you have to apply the differentiation. That way you are going to find out the velocity and acceleration. Then third condition is what? The time dependence of the angle alpha between the vectors omega, W and V. W is acceleration here in this particular question. As this question is coming from IE Irodov, in Irodov they used to just mention acceleration with W, and this is V. V is velocity. So one thing you could be knowing about is what? If we have to find out the angle between two of the vectors, what we are going to do? We are just going to make the dot product of both the vectors. So it becomes W mod V mod cos theta. So if I am going to find out the value of cos theta, so it will definitely becomes what? It will definitely become what? Tell me. It will become W vector dot V vector upon W vector mod and V vector mod. So this way we are going to find out the value of theta. So theta will be written as cos inverse of this one. It is W vector dot V vector and upon W vector mod and V vector mod. So this becomes what? Theta value. I hope you all are getting my point. Yes. So that way we are going to solve the question. Question number 3 of this section. This is C part of the question. So if I am talking to you, can't you write down the value of W? Yes. So we have to find out the dot product, right? So if here it is given with A, so this is nothing but W vector, and this one is V vector. You have to make the dot product of these two equations. Here you are going to write down and you are going to find out the value. Yes. So definitely this way if I am yes, sorry. Yes. Now the question is the mean velocity vector average over the first 3 seconds of the motion and the moduli of this vector. So do you remember how to find out the average of any function? If we have to find out the average of any of the physical quantity, what we need to do? If we have to find out the average of any physical quantity, what we need to do is we are just going to take the help of integration here. If I am talking about V average, so what we are going to write down? V dt upon integration of dt from 0 to t from 0 to t. You just apply this condition and you are going to find out the average value of velocity. What is the value of velocity which you are going to take it down there? This one, a I cap minus 2bt g cap, that you have to write down at the place of v. And similarly, if you are going to put that value there, you are going to find out the average value of velocity. I hope you have understood my point. That way, I am moving ahead with the next slide by taking your permission. Do you permit me, bro? Do you permit me, my dear friend? Yes. So that way I am moving ahead. Now coming to projectile motion. See, guys, this question is what I am just giving you as homework. You just do it by yourself. You just do it by yourself. This is just for your own practice. So you just do it by yourself. If even though you are facing any problem, you just pin down, you just comment down in my comment box, so that I could be coming up with the solution part of that question in definitely the next particular recording which I am going to do. Yes. So let us move ahead with that part of projectile motion. Here now I am coming up with the projectile motion. What I said you till now is all the part of 2D motion. So here if I am talking to you about projectile motion, so what is projectile motion? If the motion is happening simultaneously in both the axes x as well as y, so in that condition I am going to tell you that the motion is said to be projectile motion. So here guys, you understand my point. What I mean to say, if this is the initial velocity, if I am telling that it is making some angle theta this way. See guys, this is what I am telling you, that this is the u vector, this is the u vector. And if u vector is making some angle theta with the x-axis, so in that condition what you are going to write down? Here it will be written as u cos theta, and this side it will be written as u sin theta. Guys, I hope you have understood my point. And one more thing is what? If I am telling you that the acceleration, so one thing I hope that you all are understanding, you all are getting is what? That if suppose either of the vector will be lying exactly on either of the axis, I mean to say what? This is x-axis, this is y-axis. If suppose acceleration is lying exactly on the y-axis, this one is the ay. And if I am talking to you, if I am asking to you that what will be its component on the x-axis, so don't you think that x component part will be 0, right? So actually this projectile motion takes place under the influence of motion under gravity. It means what? It takes place under the influence of gravity. So if I am talking to you about gravity, so gravity lies exactly on the vertical axis. So if it lies on the vertical axis, so there will be no component of it on the x-axis part, right? So x-axis part will be considered as 0. So ay will be written as minus g, guys. So it will be written as minus g. So minus g, j cap will be what I am going to use for ay. So definitely here it has been given as minus 0, it is not minus 0, it is minus g, j cap. So what I mean to say, why this ax will be considered as 0, ax has been considered as 0, why this has been considered as 0? Because there is no projection of acceleration on the x-axis, so it has been considered as 0. I hope you have understood my point. Now, if suppose if I am projecting the object with some velocity, and that velocity is considered to be initial velocity, it is making some angle theta with the x-axis. So that way, what will happen? It is going to make two of the component, one on x-axis and one on y-axis. On x-axis it will be written as u cos theta, and on y-axis it will be written as u sin theta. Yes. So if I am talking to you that if this is u sin theta, this is u cos theta, so you just let me know that on x-axis what is the condition? That acceleration is 0. If the acceleration is 0, so in that condition what do you consider the motion to be? Though we have been already covered this particular point that whenever the acceleration will be 0, then in that case we are going to consider it as uniform motion, right guys? So this will be considered as uniform motion. This will be considered as uniform motion. So acceleration in x direction is considered to be 0 and the motion is uniform motion. So if I am asking to you that the motion is uniform, so what do you expect? So I expect that whatever the velocity will be here, the same velocity will be here, and the same velocity will be here, and the same velocity will be lying here as well. Yes, understood my point? Similarly, if I am telling you that this one is u sin theta, and I have said you that ay means in y direction there is the influence of acceleration, and that is in the opposite direction, in downward direction. So here this side it will be acting with g, right? So acceleration in the opposite direction, I have already mentioned it to you here. I have already mentioned it to you. See here, I have already said you, when the velocity will be in the forward direction and acceleration in the opposite direction, so in that condition speed will be decreasing. So in x direction, even though the acceleration was 0, so definitely the x direction velocity is going to be same constant throughout the journey. But in y direction there is the opposition of acceleration, so that way the speed is going to get decreased. Speed is going to get decreased here. So here this y direction part is going to get decreased by the value of g each second. So that way we are going to find out the maximum height, time of flight, and whatever the part terms and terminologies which will be used in the projectile motion. Have patience. Have patience. These all parts we are going to cover in the coming slide. But before moving ahead, let us talk about the assumptions. Let us talk about the assumptions. Here I am telling you that particle remains close to Earth's surface. This is first assumption. So acceleration due to gravity remains constant. The intention is what? The intention is to consider gravity to be constant. The intention is to consider gravity to be constant. And how this gravity will be considered to be constant? So once those students who have already covered gravitation, those students will be understanding my point, because we have been already taught with the formula of gravity variation with the altitude. G dash is equals to G into 1 minus H upon R, 2H upon R, right? That way. Yes. And similarly, if I am talking to you about the depth, so in the case of depth also, similarly the acceleration due to gravity varies. Acceleration due to gravity varies with the altitude, with the depth, with the rotation. So all these conditions we are going to make it assumption that all these conditions are not varying the value of G. Next is what? Distance that projectile travel is small so that Earth can be treated as plane surface. It must not be the condition that some devil is present and he is laughing like ha 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 in the far away distance, and he is just projecting some fireball, and that fireball is moving from one point of the Earth to the just exactly opposite side of the Earth. So that, if that will be happening, that is not the projectile motion, right? So what for projectile motion we are required? We have been required with the condition that the projectile travels is small and Earth can be treated as plane surface. Understood my point? These are the assumptions which we have been considered, and depending upon this we are moving ahead with the next slide. Here the slide is. They are telling you that the condition is what? That the condition is U has been split in two of the components. One is U cos theta, one is U sin theta, and U sin theta is under the influence of minus G. So in each second of the journey, Uy is going to get decreased by the value of G. Understood? Yes. And similarly, in x direction the acceleration is 0, so it is not going to make any effect on the U cos theta part. So U cos theta, whatever the value of U cos theta was at the initial state of the journey, same value is going to be there in the last point of the journey. I hope you have understood my point. Depending upon all these concepts, we are moving ahead with the time of flight part. Yes, let us talk about few of the condition of projectile motion. So here I am telling that the projectile motion are of three types. Basically what we are going to cover in our syllabus, that I am telling you. Here it is the projectile motion. It will be said as ground to ground projectile motion. This one is projectile from any tower. And this one will be said as projectile on an inclined plane. Projectile motion on an inclined plane. So these are the three types which we are going to see in projectile motion part. Understood my point? So depending upon all these conditions, we are going to discuss all these parts in the coming slides. So please have patience and let us move with the next slide. So see guys, How we are going to observe the acceleration velocity in x and y in projectile motion? So I am just going to make one chart. Depending upon this, you are going to find it out. So this one is u cos theta, this is u sin theta. You are going to write it down. You are going to mention it that ux is u cos theta, uy is u sin theta. Right, guys? And ax is equals to 0 and ay is equals to minus g. X is nothing but displacement in x direction, y is nothing but displacement in y direction. Vx is equals to u cos alpha, vy is equals to u sin alpha. Alpha is what? Alpha is the angle which it is changing. I mean, you have understood that u sin theta is going to vary. Why? Because one acceleration is acting in the downward direction. So it will definitely change the value of u sin theta. Yes. So definitely its value will be decreasing time and time again. So what will happen? U cos theta will be similar to what we have seen here. It will be similar to what we have seen here. But definitely u sin theta will be decreasing. So that way the net value will be having the value of angle with u cos theta, and that will not be definitely theta. It will definitely be alpha. Yes. So if I am just mentioning it with v value, so it can be written as v cos alpha and v sin alpha that way. Understood my point? So this way we are going to just understand, we are just going to make the chart so that we are going to implement it to find out time of flight and maximum height and all those conditions. So please understand all these conditions, and depending upon this, I am moving ahead with the next part. See guys, here a particle is projected with a speed u at an angle theta with the horizontal. Find the average velocity of projectile for the period during which it crosses half of maximum height. See, for average value of velocity, you must understand that in uniformly accelerated motion, where we can say that A will be constant, so in that condition the V average value will be nothing but u plus V by 2. That must be understood, that must be known to you. So now depending upon this, if I am telling you that some object has been projected with the value u at some angle theta and it has been projected this way, so there is some height, and this one is the height. Suppose this one is the height which is h by 2, this one is the height which is h by 2, this is h by 2, and this one is h, complete h. I hope you are getting a point. Now they are saying a particle is projected with a speed u at an angle theta with horizontal. Find the average velocity of projectile for the period during which it crosses half of maximum height. It crosses half of maximum height. So understand my point. This side, if it is u sin alpha, yes, I mean it will be written as v sin alpha perhaps. V sin alpha, then it will be quite okay for you. And similarly this side it will be v sin alpha in the downside direction. Is this clear? Guys, understanding my point? And one thing is what? That here if it is u cos theta, so at this point also there will be u cos theta. Let me ask you one question. In which direction acceleration is acting and acceleration is constant? In x direction or y direction? Definitely in y direction. Yes? So in y direction we are going to apply this formula. So V average in y direction will be considered as u plus v by 2. So it will be definitely v sin alpha positive minus v sin alpha negative divided by 2. So it becomes 0. In y direction I am talking to you. Right, in x direction what it will be? So u cos theta plus u cos theta and divided by 2. So it becomes what? U cos theta. So V average value will be what? So V average can be written as V average in x axis I cap plus V average in y axis j cap. So that way we can write down it is going to be u cos theta I cap, which will be the value of V average. I hope you all are getting my point. Depending upon this, we are moving ahead with the next slide, and that slide is about time of flight. See guys, these parts are very important. You must keep in mind. This side again I am coming up with the concept of time of flight. So let us now talk about time of flight. So first of all, I would like to ask you about one question. So which kind of projectile do you think that this projectile is? Definitely this projectile is ground to ground projectile, right? So if I am talking to you about time of flight, so what this time is exactly about? Time taken by object. Time taken by object to come to its own horizontal level is called as time of flight. So guys, let me know one thing. So if it will be coming to its own horizontal level, so definitely Sy will become 0. Yes, its definition is itself telling you about the concept. So definitely displacement in y direction will be considered as 0. So if suppose the displacement in y direction is 0, you are just going to put down all the values which we have written it here. All the values you are just going to apply. You are just going to apply it here. So that way, if you are going to write down Sy is equals to 0, so Sy is what? Uyt minus half of gt square, right? So if you are putting the value of Sy to be 0, so 0 will be equal to Uyt minus half of gt square. So if I am going to find out the value of t, so it will be definitely 2 Uy by g. So this will be definitely the total time of flight. Total time of flight. Whatever the time it is going to take from initial point to the final point, that particular time will be said as total time of flight. I hope you have understood my point. Now, if I am talking to you about total time of flight, so it is taking the time from here to here, and this particular motion is symmetric. So half of the total time will be taken this side and half of the total time will be taken this side. What I mean to say, the total time divided by 2 will be the time of ascent, and total time divided by 2 will be said as time of descent. You will be asking, sir, how? So this has been observed by applying the equations that this relation is whole true. And if you are just considering me that how, sir, so definitely I will tell you that you just talk about this point and you just find out what the time comes. So that way you are just going to apply for time v is equals to u plus at. And if I am talking about y direction, so this is y, this is y, this is y. Here it is u sin theta, so definitely you write down here u sin theta. And here it becomes minus g into t, and here at this point vy will become 0, definitely. Don't you think so? Why? Because each second it is decreasing by the value of g. So at some instant where the maximum height will be attained, Vy will be considered to be 0. Yes. So that I am just putting it here. If I am going to put it down here, so definitely the time value will come out to be time of ascent, and that will become what? U sin theta upon g. Or you can say Uy upon g. So this will be one of the formula, and that way if I am telling you that if you are going to make the half of this value, it will definitely be Uy by g. So once you are just going to ask me that how this happened, so this happened this way. And so I am just telling you that why to go all the time with this analytical part, why don't we go with the shortcut way? And that shortcut way is what? This side is whatever the time taken this side will be the same time taken this side as well. Understood my point? So that way we are going to just apply the concepts. Again, if I am talking to you about maximum height, so what I have said you at maximum height, what is going to be 0? So definitely Vy is going to be 0. So if Vy is equals to 0, so you have been knowing about this condition that Vy square is equals to Uy square plus 2Ay Sy. Sorry, this Sy will be definitely H. And Ay will be taken as minus G. So if you are going to apply it here and you are going to make this value to be 0, so definitely the formula will become H is equals to Uy square upon 2G. Just keep all this formula into your mind. Depending upon this, we will be finding out the value of maximum height. Now let us move with the next part. It is horizontal range. Horizontal range means what? The distance which the object has covered in the x direction. So in x direction, don't you think that the motion was uniform motion? So definitely displacement in x direction will be written as ux into t. And what the value of t you have found out? It is 2uy by g. And what is the value of ux here? It is ux. So definitely it will come out to be 2ux uy by g. And if you are going to just split the value, you will find out that the value of range is nothing but u square sine 2 theta by g. So this is nothing but horizontal range. Guys, I think you all understanding my point. These are the terms and terminology which are going to be used in projectile motion. And last one is what? We are going to talk about one condition that when the same range is going to be attained. The range will be attained same when the same range is going to be attained. So it will be attained in the condition when theta 1 plus theta 2 will come out to be the value of 90 degree, which is said to be complementary angle. So in that condition only it will be said that the range is going to be same. I am going to give you one example. Just see here. If theta 1 is 45 plus theta and theta 2 is 45 minus theta, you just add it. If you are going to add it, you are going to find out the value to be 90 degree. So that way we can say that theta 1 plus theta 2 is coming out to be 90 degree. If it is coming out to be 90 degree, so in that condition the range is going to be same. Is this clear? So you will be asking me, sir, then what will be the variety of question which we are going to be asked here? So if I am telling you 45 plus 15, it becomes what? 60 degree, and 45 minus 15, it becomes 30 degree. So at 60 degree projection and at 30 degree projection, the range is going to be same. At 60 and 30, at 60 and 30, the range is going to be, R will be same. So that way you can understand that at what angle of projection the range will be the same. Depending upon all these conditions, we are going to be provided with few of the numericals. I am just going to give you the link of this. All these numericals are going to be your homework. These are the numericals which is going to be your homework. 1, 2, 3, 4 and 7 questions are there which is going to be considered as your homework. 7 questions. I am going to just brief all these questions in the next coming video lecture. So for today, I am just going to seek your permission to stop my class as because I am going to have my own class right now. So this is the time to say tata bye bye, and please stay tuned with me in the forthcoming classes so that we could be coming with more and more exciting part of this chapter, and we are going to cover it with more and more enthusiasm. So please stay tuned with me, stay tuned with my channel, subscribe, like, and please make some comments, beautiful comments, hearts kind, and all those kind of things, so that it will give us motivation to come up with more and more classes. Thank you so much to be with me. Thank you so much to be tuned with me, and let us meet in the next class. Thanks a lot.